Saeed bhai, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया.
I am so happy to be here. Seriously, I'm so happy to witness all these sessions over here on digitization. मैं बहुत खुश हूँ कि मैं आया. I'm very happy.
So I don't know Saeed bhai for a very long time, but I still know him for a very long time because we have watched his films in the last several decades, many of his films. How many people have watched Saeed bhai's movie? Please raise your hand.
So
Wow. So I met Saeed bhai a few years back in Goa, introduced by somebody. My relationship with him was that when I entered his house, he said, without asking who are you, he said, ये पैंट और पजामे कहाँ से लिए तुमने? Because they were very फैला हुआ and all that. He said, this doesn't belong to you, it belongs to me.
no, you look very comfortable. A person who's comfortable in the clothes is something I need to have.
And the house was yours.
No,
He was looking comfortable.
his house.
His house and you were looking comfortable.
I was very comfortable. So, and then I immediately came back to Pondicherry and sent him few pajamas or whatever. And then we had, huh? So the point is that, you know, none of you have made films. So that's my relationship, but the deeper relationship is that the kind of movies he has made, like Saling Lamde Pe Matro, Naseem, you know, Albert Pinto Ko Gussa Kyun Aata Hai, Mohan Joshi, Hazir Ho, Nukkad. You know, watching Nukkad was an experience of also Nukkad because you have to go to somebody's house to get together to watch it. Because, you know, at that time, none of us had individual TVs or something like that. And then when we were doing this meeting, this Digital Citizen Summit, and I know that how he thinks and what kind of talks he do and his films, and also I made a call to him and I said that we are doing something like this. And I relate very strongly because, you know, cinema is also a media, right? And in our analysis, we call cinema as a first screen, TV as a second screen, PC as a third screen, and mobile as a fourth screen. Now, from the first screen where you have made your mark, and you have made your poetries, and you have made your observations of society, very deep society's observation, you know, we have come a long way where now this small little screen, the fourth screen is our thing. And then, you know, after talking to him and he said that, no, don't worry, I will come, but I will not come because you are asked me to come for these reasons. I will come to see, tum log kar kya rahe ho and all that. I want to sit through sessions, I want to hear you, observe and see what is happening and all that. So I think he wanted to be selfless by saying that he was selfish. And then, you know, when I was talking to him and he agreed, I thought I am the least, you know, knowledgeable person about art and culture. And then I called my friend Elahe ke mujhe bacha lo, you know, because I don't know what kind of question I will ask. I don't even know. And you are also filmmaker and you have made so many films. इन्होंने तो पुराने ज़माने में हमें बर्बाद किया, आप तो नए ज़माने में हमें बर्बाद कर रहे हो, you know. He only did it for the first screen. She is doing it for the latest screens also, and a screen under the screen also, because Netflix is like a screen under the screen, the private screen or OTT, आप उसको अंग्रेजी में कह लीजिए या जो भी कहिए. And then, you know, so she has made several films. Some of the films are obviously none of us can forget. I know that Abner, Abeni, my children and my wife, whenever we get a little bored, we put Iqbal. And you watch, you know. So that's Elahe for you here. We thought that, you know, my selfish thing was that I wanted to be comfortable with you to bring her in the picture so that she gets all the blame of not asking right questions or something, or not having a good conversation with you. So here we are. एंड अभी जब हम लोग वहाँ टेबल पे बैठे थे तो इन्होंने एक सेंटेंस यूज़ किया अपनी पुरानी फिल्मों के रेफरेंस में, सलीम लंगड़े पे मत रो लेके, और नसीम को लेकर इन्होंने बोला, नाउ यू हैव टू लिव विथ हेट. दैट्स द लेटेस्ट स्टैंजा ऑफ द पोएट्री. सो आई वांट यू टू कम इन दैट, इज दैट just reflect what's happening with us. You were 50 when the internet came to us. Now you are 80. And, in 30 years, from one screen, we have gone to fourth screen. From going to watch as a public screening, we are now watching individually and getting more destroyed. What is happening in our society? Can you reflect?
Pankaj is over here. Pankaj and I met Pankaj for the first time. We were covering the events in Kashmir. The militants had come over and all kinds of people were dying and being shot in curfew. This is just before the... And what we saw was an uprising of a kind which we'd never experienced. I mean, we've heard stories about the Northeast, we've heard stories about... But this was something that we never, firsthand, we're getting to understand a people and a state and the relationship between the two. It is quite frightening, and also we learned a lot. And then, of course, after that, you had the Rath Yatra movement occurring with the Kashmir militants, and you got the Babri Masjid issue, and finally, of course, a medieval mosque comes down. And the whole thing of the Rath Yatras and the Naxalite movement and the medieval mosques come down. Hey, this is my land, this is my country. And I'm trying to understand this fervor and the anger and the hope in the eyes of so many of those people who brought that mosque down. They wanted to, it was an assertion of, this is it. At the other side, you had mourning and, the people saying, what the hell is happening? But you're seeing your nation in turmoil. You're trying to understand something which is very difficult to put your finger on. And you're seeing a nation in turmoil, and then you realize, okay, look, a new element has crept in. And what has crept in is the identification of the other, very clearly defined. An other is being defined, symbolized by a mosque being brought down, a medieval mosque. Now, I never was a Muslim in a sense. I never was a practicing Muslim. I never was a man. Very clearly, a non-practicing, my name is Saeed Mirza, but I never was a practicing Muslim. But suddenly you realize something else. You felt that the mosque going down was an end of an idea. Not that the mosque mattered to me at all. What got my attention was the idea of a nation, a constitution coming down and being replaced by another idea. And the other idea is identified by another group of people. It set me thinking. And I wanted to make a film about the demolition. But I said, Saeed, you're too emotional right now. Take a little time. Reflect. Reflect on what happened. And then make your film. You cannot jump into it. You might somehow take the wrong pitch. Because I wanted to chronicle my times rather than taking sides. We should chronicle my times. And then in 1996, I made my film called Naseem. And in which I tried to get to an idea, and I even cast Kaifi Saab, the wonderful poet and a very close friend of mine, as my protagonist, as the grandfather in the film, and his granddaughter called Naseem. And it's a relationship between a grandfather and a granddaughter. But I tried to come to an idea which said, poetry is over. Now, you live with hate. That's going to take center stage. Center stage is going to be taken over by hate. The idea of an India, of an earlier India, is going to recede into the background. And that was, so therefore, the film was an epitaph of my nation, of what it wanted to be, and what it's going to become. No holds barred, and this is and it's objectively seeing things that, and we are living with that today. It's taken over center stage. It is the dominant narrative, in a sense, in our country. Whether we like it or not, it's there. The point with me is, personally speaking, and not that my name is Saeed Mirza. I could be Arvind Desai, I could be Albert Pinto, I could be Mohan Joshi. To me, what is critically important is to bring back poetry. And I'll fight it with all the strength at my command, even at the age of 80. With all the strength at my command, I shall fight them electorally. Because that is the solution. They've got to be fought electorally because it's got to come through the people of this country, not through any other means, through the people of this country deciding what kind of an India do they want. They have to decide. And I think, and I trust the people of India. And I think it's going to happen. Despite the fact that I wrote the epitaph of a nation, I believe that the people of this country are just too noble and too generous to be swept by this incredibly vicious philosophy. It's vicious. And I must also let you all know, since 1993, I have been traveling across this country by road continuously. At times I've been 5.5 months continuously on the road, traveling and trying to understand this land of mine and the people of this land, which is the reason why I've got a terrible back problem, because I travel by road and by car, and I've got my wife with me and my man Friday, my driver, and we travel. And we traveled, at one point of time, we traveled we calculated 56,000 kilometers, continuous, on the road. Traveling. What was it all about? What was it all about? What was it trying to understand? Because there is no land like this. There's no land in the world like this. And I'll tell you why. Do you have any money with you? Any rupee, no coin? I'm going to show you something. Imagine a country. 2000 का दे दीजिए आप, मैं रख दूंगा. Imagine a country. On this note, there are 16 languages, if not more, maybe 18, I'm not so sure. I love that. 18 languages, there are many more actually, but this is the 18 accepted languages of Rome. Is there any country like this? Languages, food habits, dress. My God, this is us. This is us. What have we become? What the hell have we become? We've reduced ourselves. We wanted to be this, didn't we? What have we become? A kind of reductive process of reducing ourselves into some kind of hate-filled, I don't know. Well, this is what I believe. And it's got to be fought, and it will be fought. I told Elahe and Osama, am I talking too much?
No.
I get tired of my own voice. Because I like to fight the battles in another way, not through words. But the point I'm getting at, I wrote my last, in quotes, novel. It's called I Know the Psychology of Rats. It's about a friendship between Saeed Mirza and his very close friend called Kundan Shah, the man who made a film called Janibi Do Yaro. We were classmates together at film school. It's a journey of two people. One who comes from a kind of an elite background, English-speaking, schools, system, etc. That's me. And Kundan Shah who comes from the vernacular stream of Gujarati, and we're both in the same film school together. Two different kinds of people, poles apart. Philosophically, also. He can't understand why should we bring in politics into cinema. Cinema is cinema. It's got nothing to do with politics, etc. And here we are discussing Marx, then Patni Kya Kya Karna, but at the film school. Different, completely. But then our journey, and finally in the end we became partners when we made Nukkad. Our film's journeys were separate, our television journey was together. So we made Nukkad together, all of them, both of us. Then we made Police Station, which got banned by the government of India, by the way. But then the point I'm getting at is, and it was a journey of friendship. And finally, when the mosque was brought down, the medieval mosque, here is a man, friend of mine, very close friend of mine. When it came down, I had gone to, it's a strange thing. The mosque came down and there were riots in the city of Bombay. People were objecting to it, they took on state property, then the police came and fired, etc. and shot quite a few people. And then there was sudden silence in the city of Mumbai. And then a phone call comes from a friend of mine called Abha Dhulia. Says, Saeed, stop, don't leave your house. Just be careful because we're hearing strange rumors. This is on the 29th of December, 30th of December. I said, what are the rumors? There are going to be riots in the city. I started laughing. I said, you and I have heard those rumors. Now try to imagine a situation, how more ridiculous can it get? It's about an entire city has heard the rumors about riots that are going to take place from the 6th of January on, but the date is also given. If the citizens of the city know it, obviously the administration also knows it. And sure enough, on the 6th of January, the riots start. Slaughter, mayhem. Chronicle of a riot foretold. It happens. Is it bizarre? Is it surreal? It's true. Hundreds are killed in the city of Mumbai. Then again, silence. It stops suddenly. Now, rumors again, there'll be a backlash. There'll be a backlash. The Muslims are going to come from the sea. I couldn't believe it. This is surreal. This is like Franz Kafka. Yeah, what is this? Kafkaesque. And then, suddenly, series of bomb blasts. And a Muslim thug, of course, is like those fellows earlier were thugs. Now the Muslim thug, those are Hindu thugs, those are Muslim thug. Set off bomb blasts across the Dawood Ibrahim and innocent people died. Suddenly the state jumps into action and nabs those guys. But they ought to be nabbed. They ought to be nabbed. They ought to be nabbed. But so also the guys before that who slaughtered, But the point is, how banana is our republic? How banana is our republic? I'd like to ask this question. We pretend to be what we're lots of things, but we also, in a strange way, there's things that are happening which are frightening, worrisome, excruciatingly funny, ironically. And I can't decode this in my head. But Kundan Shah, I come back to him, he's had a solution to the Babri Masjid. My friend and partner, the Saeed has got to be built back, brick by fucking brick, in slow motion. Imagine him saying this to me. Brick by fucking brick, in slow motion, so people know a law has been broken. Do you think I like that mosque, Saeed? I said, no, you don't. I know, I don't like the mosque. But the point is, that's not the issue. A point has to be made. You can't do this. It's stuck in my head. And I'm not saying this, Saeed, because I'm a friend of yours. I'm not interested. No, my friend Saeed Mirza, he might be hurt. No, I'm not interested. He said, I've had enough of this. It's so stupid. It's so silly. And that's when I wrote this book, because I kept this in my head, and I wrote this book. And I would like to read an excerpt from that book, if your people don't mind. It's an excerpt that I have in my pocket. It's 3 or 4 pages of what I said. Trying to understand what is this hate? Iska jad kya hai? What are the roots of this hate? And where does it stem from? You have lots of other things that we've discussed, but where does it actually stem from? Because there is a philosophical idea behind it. There is a very strong philosophical idea behind it that takes all kinds of forms, at times bizarre, at times philosophical, at times surreal, but there's a philosophical idea behind it. And what is that idea? The Germans had an idea. The Germans had an idea that the reason for the despair of their land and the loss of the territories in the First World War and the destruction of a nation, they had an idea. He said, it's those bloody communists and those Jews. It's the communists and the Jews who are responsible. So you take them out. You take them out. For everything that goes wrong in your land, you need, and you take them out, and that's exactly what happened. First they got the communists, and then they got the concentration camp, and then they got the Jews. Surprisingly, a lot of Jews were also communist members, The point I'm getting at is, there's a philosophical idea of a great people, a great nation being brought to its knees, and you need to point out the enemy. A superior nation, a superior people, and therefore communists, Jews. Get them out. Nobody talks about the communists who fought them on the streets of Berlin and Germany, but they were slaughtered. They were slaughtered too. And half those guys in the concentration camp, they were also communists. They were also murdered. So what is the idea? What is the philosophical idea here now in our country? Which has been picked up. But the same people who revered those guys in Germany and in Italy, they were heroes for these guys here. They were heroes. Can I read that essay?
Please.
Can I have a show? I think people are getting perhaps bored. I don't know. I'm not so. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I hold it?
Can you hold this for me, please? Can you hear me? Yeah. There is a new narrative that is rapidly sweeping across my land. It is a story about a distant past where a great civilization existed in peace and harmony until a barbarous band of invaders destroyed it by marauding and pillaging this incredibly unique civilization. A superior people ravaged by savages that led to 1,000 years of slavery. This is the philosophy just behind it. And it's true. This is what he's talking about. It is a narrative of the past that allows its believers so many insidious possibilities for the present. It divides people, us, them. The patriot and the fifth columnist. It allows for hate. It allows for demonization of a religion, and if one stretches the argument, it even allows for retribution. It could be converted to pay back time with no guilt, no shame, no remorse. This was a classic example of the weaponization of history, and every fascist loves it. ISIS, Islam khatre mein hai. Look what they did. Same thing. The idea is the same. However, this narrative is an insult to my intelligence. Besides, it's also a lie. I will now list out the names of some of the kingdoms and empires that existed and disappeared before the coming of these outsiders. The Cholas, the Cheras, the Pandyas, the Chalukyas, Hoysalas, Shungas, Palas, Pratiharas, Kakatiyas, Satvahans, Kingdom of Kashmir, Gujarat and Sindh, Yadavs, Gonds, Solankis, Kalinga, Nandas, Magad, Kannauj, Mathura, Kashi, Rashtrakutas, Pallavas, Gauds, the Mauryas, the Guptas, and the Kushans. Now, one simple question needs to be asked. How did one kingdom or empire give way to another? Was it over a cup of tea and biscuits, or the spilling of blood? Ask yourself a question, yeah? So what is the story? There's enough evidence in Hindu, Buddhist and Jain literature, padhiye aap zara. And tales to tell you that there was wars, there was carnage and plundering and desecration. There was a lot of spilling of blood as empires changed and kingdoms collapsed. One shudders at the story of Ashoka's violent ascent to power, or Parshuram's, the legend of Parshuram's revenge against the Kshatriyas, or the carnage of the warriors like Pushyamitra and Shashank, of the mayhem recorded in the Mahabharata. That's what wars are all about. And that's how kingdoms change and empires fall. And that is not all. Hindu kingdoms fought against Hindu kingdoms. Shaivas against Vaishnavas, and also against Buddhist and Jain empires. They even destroyed each other's places of worship. The history of the Shunga, Pala, Gaud, and Rashtrakuta empires reveals bloody massacres and desecration. Yes, there was bigotry too. Places of worship were destroyed and people were killed for their beliefs. There's a classic story of a king offering a bounty for the head of every Buddhist slaughtered. Pushyamitra. It's there and it's an edict, you can read it. Yes, the past is not as tranquil and peaceful as it made out to be. One should not be surprised by all of this because that's empires are created, extended control and then destroyed. The wily Chanak revealed so many secrets in his writing on statecraft. Does all of this mean that Indian civilization before the coming of the Afghans and Turks was not great? No. It simply means that this sophisticated confluence of ideas, cultures, and philosophies also spilt a great deal of blood. I shall now come to the barbarous invaders. Yes, they did invade and they fought against Hindu kings and empires. Of course they did. They did desecrate and destroy temples. They came as iconoclasts and they behaved as such. Were they biased towards people of their own faith? Of course they were. Can you imagine this age as being democratic and just? Was it just before they arrived? Once established, however, things began to change. As they made alliances with Hindu kings and chieftains, had Hindu administrators, financiers, very important financiers, and their scholars, doctors, scribes, musicians, administrators, historians, poets, and architects, and Sufis began to mingle and to learn from this very ancient land. It's a very ancient land that these people had invaded. It's an ancient land. Songs began to be sung together. Songs began to be sung together, festivals celebrated together, and would love and poetry be far behind? Yes, as much as this civilization honored war and valor, it celebrated love, literature, and poetry too. Along with these interactions and over time, a new strand of color was being added to a very large existing canvas. New entrants. So was everything perfect? No. Was there a lurking hostility to these new arrivals? Were there cases of injustice and bigotry? There must have been, of course there must have been. But beyond that, imperial power has the capacity of forming close friendships, alliances, and marriages too. Finally, the children of Babur arrived. This is the term used by these purveyors of false histories to describe the Mughal Empire. The question is, who the hell did the Mughals really fight? Has anybody really read history? Who the hell did they really fight? Padhiye aap log. Yes, Babur did fight a couple of Rajput things, but his biggest battles were against the Muslim Afghans, the earlier rulers. All through the reign of the Mughals till the time of Aurangzeb, their greatest enemies were other Muslim kingdoms in Gujarat, Sindh, Punjab, Kandahar, Kabul, Malwa, and the Muslim usurpers in Bihar and Bengal. What is important to note? That it was a Muslim, Mughal and Hindu Rajput alliance, which included marriages and children that had created this empire. Another truth, this alliance slaughtered Muslims and Hindus in equal measure. And if one goes by the rules of the game, it was ghastly. All wars are. As we go to the south, the biggest obstacle to the Mughal dominance were the Deccan sultans, whose commanders and chiefs were either Abyssinian warriors, Marathas, or Andhras. Did you know that? You all know it. No? To these kingdoms, the Mughals were the outsiders. And for more than 300 years, from the 14th to the 17th century, a distinct Persian, Andhra, and Maratha culture had taken shape in these lands. And hundreds of Hindus were important administrators, nobles, and commanders. There were many alliances through marriages too. Does anybody know that Shivaji's grandfather, Maloji Bhosle, Maloji Bhosle, read and ye shall find, was a commander under the Abyssinian Sultan Ambar Malik. Does anyone know that the two were brilliant warriors and perfected the art of guerrilla warfare as they confronted the Mughal armies of Emperor Jahangir? Ambar Malik, Maloji Bhosle confronting Jahangir. Does anyone know that this same grandfather went to the mausoleum of a Sufi saint named Shah Sharif to pray for male children? Maloji Bhosle sahab. Wahan jaate hain, mannat mangne. Does anyone know that when those heirs were born, they were named Shahji and Sharifji after the same Sufi saint? Yes, the Muslim Mughals did fight against the Muslim sultans, but so many of the commanders were Hindus. The Muslim sultans fought against the Muslim Mughals, and many of the commanders were Hindus too. To add to this confusion, many Hindu kings and Muslim had Muslim commanders and their soldiers and armies. So who was fighting who? There's a famous case of Maharana Pratap confronting the forces of Emperor Akbar at the Battle of Haldighati. Of his two commanders, one was a Muslim, and his army of 3,000 comprised 1,000 Afghan warriors. Do people know about this little detail? On the other hand, Emperor Akbar, was Emperor Akbar really leading his army? No, it was led by Man Singh, a Hindu general. As an aside, I would like to add that numerous wives and concubines were not just a phenomenon of degenerate Muslims. A great number of Andhra, Rajput, Sikh and Maratha kings had nobles had wives and harems too. In fact, Chhatrapati Shivaji has 7 wives. Do you all know that? True. Does that make him less of our hero? No. He was a great king and a warrior of his times. The question that needs to be asked of these purveyors of false histories is, why have they left these little details hidden? What purpose does it serve, and who benefits from it? And I'll come to now. Let me guess. I believe the 700 years of Islamic influence did 2 basic things. It completely undermined the role of Sanskrit as which at their core critiqued mindless rituals and attacked the pompousness and hypocrisy of clerics and priests. Try and imagine these worthy personages being ridiculed. after centuries of glorification and impunity, what would their reaction be? Having said this, I must get back to my argument about empires. As far as the growth of the Maratha and Sikh empires are concerned, their biggest battles and conquests occurred after the death of Aurangzeb. After him, the empire began to falter, and the old order was changing rapidly with the rise of the Marathas and the sacking of Delhi by Nadir Shah, the Persian Sultan. By 1740, the Mughal Empire had been hollowed out, emptied. It remained Mughal only in name. The really big guns were the Marathas, the Sikhs. There were some reviving Rajputs, Gujars, Jats, the Sultans of Bengal, and the kingdom of the south. Did they plunder and kill as they extended their empires? They did. And waiting in the wings and gaining strength were the British as they played one power against the other. Last page. In fact, from 1740 onwards, it was a free-for-all. And finally, one by one, almost all of them genuflected to the British Raj. Sikh, Maratha, Muslim, Rajput, Jat, the Nizam, the kingdoms of the south, all of them prostrated, except perhaps one. He died on the battlefield fighting them. Guess who it was? So was the Mughal Empire perfect? No. Were there cases of intolerance and bigotry? I'm sure there were. As I said earlier, as with all feudal empires, there was anguish and injustice too. The important thing to note was that Hindus and Muslims fought together and also against each other. Therefore, the idea of 700 years of Muslims on one side and Hindus on the other is an insult to my intelligence. That only the Muslim can be violent and cruel and plunder and kill is also an insult to my intelligence. The idea that Hindus are non-violent and peaceful is another piece of garbage. As the saying goes, "Hammam mein sab nange hain." Everyone is naked in the bath, in the public baths. Some more points to note. These invaders never left. They lived and died and are buried right here in this land. Generations upon generations of their graves are testament to the simple truth. They created exquisite monuments and palaces, built public buildings and later gracious cities. They built courts, hospitals, markets, caravans, and ports for trade and enriched this land with music, literature and tales, food, language, dress code, poetry, architecture, and gardens. They also built administrative structures across the land that exist till today. And most importantly, they did not stash their wealth abroad, as so many patriots do today. We're all of this convinced these writers are false histories. We're all of this convinced these writers are false histories. Frankly, I don't know, and I don't give a damn. They are born in hate. They lack humor. Very important. They lack humor, and most importantly, they have no poetry in their souls. So let them create the narratives of the past, create history to suit their ideological needs because they have the numbers in parliament. But as Kundan Shah would say, if 10 guys say you're drunk, don't lie down, stand up and speak out.
Thank you. So, I was looking at, you spoke and narrated this excerpt for about, total 35, 40 minutes. And I was looking at to appreciate the audience that not a single person was on mobile.
What will happen to your digital lives?
No,
World-
but that is a big hope, because we don't have a time span more than something. We are in between screens and timelines and this, and not a single person was looking at mobile. So I'm going to challenge our own this trend of hate. Is that what you're saying? Is that we have hope?
Of course there is.
That if there is a real content with so much of experience and poetry and narrative is coming, good narrative coming, we can leave the digital apart and we can go for a hate-free life.